Ancient Roman religion was very unique and certainly different compared to the many religions in the world today. In the beginning, the Roman religion was very unorganized, and they sought to find some sort of structure.
Respect. Shouldn't we wait for reinforcements? No. They can be here in 3 weeks. In 3 weeks? Rome can't wait 3 weeks!
Romans had a religion based on a mixture of rituals, taboos, superstitions, and traditions that collected over many years from different sources. The early Romans believed there were spirit-like forces called noumena that controlled many aspects of their lives and were the reasons behind why things occurred in the world. The Romans believed that everything in nature was driven by noumena, such as the flow of the river, a solar eclipse, and the outcome of battles and wars. The Romans lived in homes, and the spiritual center of their home was the hearth. A hearth is an eternal fireplace that's located typically in the center of a home. Prayer, sacrifices, and cooked meals took place at the hearth. The women of the house were to guard over the fire of the hearth and to make sure it kept alight. At night, before bed, they would make sure the fire would be stocked up to last until the morning. There were 2 gods of the Roman state cult that guarded the homes. Janus, the god of the doorways and beginnings, was the chief guardian of the home. He was the passage through the door and protected the inside and outside of the house. The second official deity next to Janus was Vesta. She was the goddess of the hearth, and everyday prayers would be said to Vesta. During meals, some food would be set aside and passed into the hearth as an offering to the goddess. A Roman household believed in 3 personal gods. The lares were the spirits of the family's ancestors who guarded and protected the family. Little clay-like figurines, as depicted here, represent the lares and were kept in a small household shrine called the lararium. Short prayers and small offerings would be made to the lares, but it was more elaborate on special days like weddings, births, or birthdays. The Penates made sure that a family's pantry was full. Prayer of thanks would be given to them for keeping the family fed, full, and well-nourished. The third household spirit is the genius. It's represented in the form of a snake. The genius was the manhood of the family, and this spirit would empower the husband to father the children. The household genius was honored on the birthday of the head of the household. And aside from these friendly spirits, there were also ghostly spirits of the dead that might also haunt the house. These spirits were known as the larvae and lemures. The head of the family would have to perform rituals to drive these ghostly spirits out. It included spitting out black beans, and creating some disturbing noise by bashing together metal pots. State religion looked after the home of the Roman people. Roman state religion was much the same as the individual home, but on a larger scale. The Pontifex Maximus was the head of the Roman state religion. Under the Pontifex Maximus, there were 4 religious colleges, whose members were appointed for life. The highest was the Pontifical College, which consisted of the Rex Sacrarum, the Pontifices, Flamens, and the Vestal Virgins. Rex Sacrarum, known as the King of Rights, was an office for royal authority for religious matters. Pontifices oversaw the organization of religious events. They kept records of proper religious procedures, the dates of festivals, and days of special religious significance. Flamens acted as priests to individual gods, 3 of the major gods being Jupiter, Mars, and Quirinus. These experts specialized in the knowledge of prayers and rituals specific to their particular deity. And we have the Vestal Virgins. The Vestal Virgins' duties included guarding the sacred fire in the temple, performing rituals, and baking the sacred salt cake to be used at numerous ceremonies in the year. One way of understanding a variety of Roman religious practices is to consider them a vehicle for communication between the mortal and the divine. Roman religion practices often provide a way for the gods to talk to the mortal. The Romans believed that the relationship between the gods and mortals go both ways. Each side would provide as well as receive services. The role of the mortal was to worship the gods through prayer and sacrifice. They would accomplish this by rituals that had to be performed correctly. This was very important to the gods, for one slight mistake and the ritual would have to be performed all over again. But in most cases, a prayer will involve some offering to the deity. The sacrifice had to be a symbol of life in some way or form. But to a less extent, milk, fruit, cheese, and wine were offered to the deity. But the official ritual was the slaying of an animal, such as a pig, an ox, a cow, or a sheep. For each god there would be different animals to sacrifice. The animal to be sacrificed was blessed and a procession was made to an altar. The animal chosen to be sacrificed had to be a specific age, gender, and color, just depending on what was the question that was being asked to the god. If the animal struggled, that was a very bad sign. But once the animal was slayed, the exta, also known as the liver or gallbladder of the animal, would be inspected and it must be flawless, meaning no spots on the liver whatsoever.
What does it say?
Doesn't matter what the entrails say, Constantine will be at the gates in 3 days.
Majesty.
Well?
You see where the liver is discolored here, and distended towards the...
Just tell me what it means!
It is telling us that the enemy of Rome will be defeated.
The Romans were polytheists, who believe in many gods. The Greek colonies in southern Italy and the Etruscan tribes held most of the influence on the Roman religion. Just like the Greeks, they took the idea of these gods to have human-like forms. They adopted the idea of what these gods stood for, and just renamed them to call it their own. This entire collection of the Roman gods was called the Pantheon. Jupiter was the king of the Roman gods, the god of light and sky, the ruler over the universe, and he held lightning bolts in his hand to throw at the world whenever he got mad. What he stood for was much like the Greek god Zeus. Jupiter was also married to his sister Juno, the goddess of women and fertility. The Roman goddess Juno was also much like the Greek goddess Hera. The Roman pantheon was made up of gods and goddesses, some influenced by the Greek, who each had a particular responsibility to the world. Some of the main Roman gods and goddesses were Mars, the god of war; Venus, goddess of love and beauty; Minerva, goddess of wisdom, art, and industry; Neptune, god of the sea; Ceres, goddess of the harvest; Vulcan, god of the underworld; Diana, goddess of hunting and the moon; Bacchus, god of wine and partying; Mercury, he was the messenger of the gods. The wings on his helmet and sandals allowed him to travel fairly quickly; and Vesta, goddess of the hearth and home. Now she was very important to the Romans because in her temple was the hearth of Rome, and it was never to go out. Over the years, the Romans continued to be influenced by the Greeks, Egyptians, and many other cultures as they continued to add on to their pantheon of gods. The ancient Roman religion has been viewed as a copycat religion of the Greeks, but sure enough, the Romans have certainly left a mark on the world that we live in today. Like our very own solar system, yummy candy bars, fashion, music, television, and even in our very own names. The history behind the Roman religion is certainly an attraction in Rome. It's one of the most complex yet interesting religions ever studied, and it certainly has made a heavy impact in the history of world religions.